Good afternoon to everyone that's joining us, and good morning to those of you that are joining us from overseas. So we just started a little bit early, so we're just going to wait for people to join us. And if you join our webinars, we sort of give it a minute just to allow people to settle in with their coffee. I won't be able to stay quiet. There we go. So we'll just give it a few more seconds for people to join, and then we'll start. So as I said, thank you for joining us today. We've got a really important webinar, I believe. It's a topic that I think all payroll HR leaders should be talking about, and it's really about the threats that may happen to your payroll and payment system. So we're talking about defending the global paycheck security threats in international payroll and payment systems. So let's move over to our presenters. So we're in partnership with Papaya today. So thank you so much for delivering today's webinar. It's great to have you back. I think the last one was towards the end of last year. So we have Achille. Would you like to introduce yourself, and then we'll come over to Aaron?
Thank you, Melanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Achille. I'm Senior Director of Payment Success at Papaya Global. I've been in the industry of payroll and payments business for the past 10 years, and I'm trying to help our customers to make sure that they have the right solution in place for their payroll and payments business. And hopefully today we can deliver some good insight about how payments are working and in terms of how to protect your businesses. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. And Aaron, over to you.
Hello. So my name is Aaron. I joined Papaya just recently, about 2 months ago. Before joining Papaya, I worked in NASDAQ. And to NASDAQ, I got through like acquisition. Denza, fintech company that was sold to NASDAQ about a year and a half ago for $10.5 billion. I've been in the security and like especially in the fintech industry about for 10 years. And happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Aaron. So today's webinar, if you do have any questions, please add them in the chat. And then towards the end of the webinar, we'll get those answered. So please feel free to ask any questions as we go through today's webinar. So the agenda today is the evolution of global payroll and payment threats, critical aspects of vendor security, modern protection framework, and implementation guide and best practices. So we were just before we start, we were just saying that I was sorting out my insurance for GPA education, and they were saying actually years ago, because obviously I'm a certain age, it would have been all about the office and contents that you need to insure, and now everything is all about cybersecurity and making sure that you've got everything in place for that, because it's such a key thing now, isn't it? And it's developing all the time. So we have a poll questions. This is where I would like your input if possible. I always have my little percentage I like to get to. So let's launch the first poll. What concerns you most when it comes to your organisation's payment processes? So what do you think is going to be the top one for these then, Kile? What do you reckon is going to be? Security vulnerabilities, operational efficiencies, compliance requirements, cost and FX rates. Aaron, have you got any thoughts on this?
So
You don't.
yeah, to go first.
Yeah, I think probably it would be between security vulnerabilities and compliance requirements, I guess.
Okay, so like I kind of a little bit disagree with you. I think that both like all these four aspects are very, very important. And this to come from like security person is a little bit strange, but I think that for the project to be successful, okay, it has to take all these four factors into consideration, and to be able to have this like dance of power and dance like between different features and different objective of the project. Any one of them, if you take like it's kind of four legs of the process, okay, if you will take one of them, the whole project will fall apart and will not be
Okay.
successful for your organization.
Okay, well, actually, everyone's done pretty well. They've gone above my, I normally have to nag and I haven't had to nag. So thank you to everyone that has actually answered. So I'm going to stop the poll in a couple of seconds. So if you haven't answered, if you can do that now, that'd be brilliant. And thank you so much for getting involved. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to end the poll and okay, can you see the answers there? It's security vulnerabilities 45%, operational efficiency is 23%, compliance requirements 30%, and cost and FX rates 3%. Okay, so I love Zoom sometimes. It's a bit clunky, but here we go. So I'm going to come off camera and I'll let you start today's webinar.
Thank you, Melanie. So obviously the payment landscape is evolving, and we all know that we are introducing more, let's say, modern solution payment methods. But at the same time, as we are evolving with technology, also the exposures to cyber attacks, data breaches, phishing emails, and any other illegal activities, they also evolving in parallel. So there are several aspects that we need to consider when we choose, let's say, a third-party vendor, a service partner, a payments provider. It's really important to understand what is the most that we need to check before we sign an agreement. So it's essential to carefully evaluate their, obviously, technology and security measures, and also trying to understand and making sure that all their the platform, the technology they're going to use, how they treat your data. So auditing, probably asking for auditing every now and then, just to be on the safe side. So Melanie, if we can go to the next, please. So with some research, so obviously the FBI internet crime complaint reports that the business lost more than 2.7 billion for scams in 2022. So as you can see, this is very very crucial. So it's going to be economical cost for the businesses. It's not only that; it's also a reputational part of it. Because obviously, if you incur in any data breach or any phishing email, your reputation is going to be ruined. And we all know that it's important to keep, as we are businesses, we're trying to deliver services to our customers, to our employees, or any other market that we are approaching. It's important that we are on the safe side and making sure that everyone is happy of what we are delivering and how we are delivering it. So if we can go to the next slide, Melanie, sorry. Knowing your vendor. So when you know, when you choose a service partner, obviously you need to be sure that their technology is strong enough, obviously, so there are security features, there is integration capabilities, and validation into the system. So nowadays as we are evolving, we need to use less manual intervention, which can create several issues in terms of data breach, GDPR, which can concern obviously the businesses and the people. So the three key points are security features, integration capabilities, and validation system. The 90% of the data breaches are due to compromised credentials. So it's how we share our data, in which way we move our information or internal information from a HRI system, for example, when we're talking about workforce payments and obviously employees. We hold the most critical information about an individual or any other third-party payments that you are making, which is obviously first name, last name, mail address. So all sensitive data that could expose your employees and your business at massive risk. So traditionally in the past and even nowadays, majority of the businesses, they still using traditional payments process, and that's very they expose themselves to a massive risk. So if you see traditional process, we're talking about manual bank file handling, multiple banking portals, and high operational cost. What does it mean? As manual banking file, I'm sure that most of the businesses that they use manual bank file, they not auditing it. So the bank file are not secure at all. Basically, when we receive the information to pay employees, for example, from an ICP, from a service partner, we receive the file via an SFTP integration, for example, but who knows that this file cannot be open and information that are in the file are manipulated. So, and also, I'm sure that we very rarely we auditing those files. If we have, for example, a booker, a checker, or an approval, opening this file and make sure that all the bank files are correct, even though it's quite impossible, because if we're talking about from a population of 1,000 employees, it's very difficult to spot any illegal activities or any manipulation on of the file. Multiple banking portals, there is no consolidation at all. So business different platform, there's no consolidation. It's very difficult in terms of following the end-to-end process, the reconciliation part of it, making sure that everything has been paid on time and in the secured way. And on top of it, there is also high operational cost, because we're talking about paying workforce globally in different locations, in different countries. So it's really important that in some countries you need also to open local bank accounts, which has got an operational cost. You need to maintain this banking the banking cost, and on top of it you need to have also operational cost, which are resources that you need to have to make sure that the end-to-end process is completed on time. The model solution obviously is giving additional secured and efficiency, transparency, and cost effectiveness. So automated validation. This is the way forward, like high tech, less manual touch. So it's important to understand when you sign up with a vendor, if there is an integration with the system between the payroll data with the payments rate. So the files are exchanged via secured API. So the teams are not manually loading the files into the platform, is consolidating in one platform only. There is a transparency where you can see all your transaction at the real time. If the payments have been executed on time, if there is any issue with that, and at the same time, it protects your data, because there is no manual intervention. There is no one touching those the end-to-end process, and I believe we all want to make sure that our workforce is paid in the right way, in the correct way. And as optimized cost, obviously having an integration with one platform which can handle the payroll process plus the payments, definitely is going to have less cost, because you don't have to open in-country's bank account. Your service provider can definitely handle the global solution, having in-country bank account, having the most sophisticated latest payment method, which we are talking about probably real-time payments, fast payments, instant payments, and on top of it is compliant in terms of different countries. They require different regulation, and you need to have an in-country bank account. You need to make sure that probably if you are funding in foreign currency, the exchange needs to happen at the country that you are going to execute payments, such as Turkey, for example, or countries like Singapore, where you need to be licensed to execute payments, to pay the CPF board, and any other kind of payments that you need to execute. So, for security reason, handling everything in one place, it will give you the visibility, it will give you the transparency, and also it will give you the flexibility and the security in terms of the process.
Okay, we got a poll. Are you okay for a poll?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so bear with me. Our next poll. Sorry, I'm not as smooth as you guys. Right, okay, which aspect of payment security keeps you up at night? So, Aaron, shall I start with you on this one? Payment fraud attempts, data breach exposure, control over approvals, cross-border vulnerabilities. What do you think will be the audience's top one on this?
I would say data breach exposure. We inherit the security of our vendors and like our supply chain. And we saw in the last few years how supply chain and your vendor risk management is an important part of the company security.
Yeah. Hile?
I would say probably payment fraud attempts. It's where companies are. That's just per my experience. I can see being in the industry of the payments for several years. I can see that the customers are more concerned with payments fraud attempts, so which can ending up in obviously in paying wrong beneficiary. And this consequently is gonna obviously expose you to the breach as well, because then you need to you need to justify, you need to report what has been happening basically.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to shut it down in a couple of seconds. So if you haven't answered, if you could now, that'd be great. And thanks once again for getting involved. Okay. So I'm going to end the poll. And here are the results. So payment fraud attempts, 26%, data breach exposure, 56%, control over approvals, 12%, and cross-border vulnerabilities, 6%. So really both what you both thought, didn't you? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and I will go back to you on this slide here.
Yeah. So this highlighting some key risks in payment processing. So as we could see also from the pool, is like what is concerning the people is like the data breaches, obviously, the payment redirection and process manipulation. So which it links to the questions that we asked earlier. So process manipulation, we're talking about, it can be exposed to fraud, and if there is no security in there, we were discussing earlier, the risk is to pay wrong beneficiary, or doing it on purpose, or exposing the business to some illegal activities. Data breaches, obviously, it's very concerning as well, because as we were saying, we're holding the most sensitive data of our workforce, and payment redirection. So sometimes business are worried in a cross-border transaction because something can happen, and which is fair. However, going back to knowing your vendor, how do they process your payments? how they are linked with which kind of financial institution they use, if they are regulated as a business. This is a very important part of when you know your vendor, because being regulated, it means that your money is protected, so that you have safeguarded accounts, that you make sure that the money is there, is protected, nobody can touch it, whatever happening. And if they are capable to really make payments globally using strong and reliable financial institution, just to make sure that the end-to-end process is going smoothly. So there is for bank file vulnerabilities. So there are three critical risks. Obviously, it's the manipulation, the limited verification, and high error rates. So easy manipulation, as I said, you can open the file and you can change the data in there. Also, the limited verification, as I was mentioning earlier, it's quite difficult to auditing all the population that you have in a bank file. As we are talking about global payments and global businesses, I'm sure that each bank file contains thousands of employees, so it's very difficult to verify it. So, and higher rates, obviously, it's manual. It's like receiving the file, uploading it, and can expose again to different scenarios, like paying late, paying wrongly, data leak. So it's important that you have a protection framework, and which in terms of access control, transaction security, and continuous monitoring. So auditing, as I said, your vendors is always important. Understand how they are evolving in terms of technology, because we can sign with the vendors that they can tell us we have a great technology, but at the end of the day is actually to prove it. So go and find out, have a demo, do a pilot even before signing a contract. Probably would be good to have a pilot to understand if really they are offering what they're telling you, because sometimes you can incur in situation where what the service partners or in general businesses are offering is not necessarily true. So this is important for your businesses to understand, to find out, so you know that you're signing with a vendor which is secured, is treating your data as in the most compliant way. They are, where they are based in terms of where do they store your data, how do they do it, if they do trolls, and if they have any additional auditing on their platform. So I think I went to I think manually.
Go forward.
Yes, sorry. I think it's the next slide is the next one, which I think is going to be Aaron jumping in.
Thank you. So if three people would what is the goal and what are the requirements from the payment project? I think this line is some kind of summarized. There are three major things in this quote. Okay, so what do we want? We want compliance. Okay, we want to be cost efficient, and we also want to be operational, easily operational. So there are three requirements to the project. Compliance is basically security, okay? Cost effective, it's the price that we're willing to pay for the project, and other is operational. So, and there are a lot of projects they have three kind of goals that are contradict with each other. So security, cost, and user-friendly usability. So there is a saying in the security project that you can select any two of them, but you can't achieve all three of them. But nevertheless, please to the next slide. How do you how do you approach such project? Okay, so you will be in the control of all three aspects of your of the project. So first step is like do real thorough assessment of your current situation and your desires desire position. Okay, don't go into the project where you're not well prepared, where you don't know all the problems you can bump in. Second, like build your foundations to understand like what is the minimal kind of set of tools, set of controls that you can go live with the project. Don't try to achieve like the third, like the fourth optimal stage. You will never get there. It's like it's too complicated. Don't try to over promise. Then when you have your foundation and you know what basic features you have, like you have end-to-end encryption, multi-factor authentication, you selected the right vendor. Okay, you you go into enhancement. Okay, and then you have all your tool set that you identified during your assessment to make your process better, to make it more secure. And then based on the feedback from different stakeholders, different like your security organization, you can go into optimization and say, okay, here I need to improve it, I have to change it a little bit, but those like 4 steps will help you to go through the whole process without I would say without putting yourself in the stress to jump from the you have nothing to have like optimal stage. Okay, that's kind of difficult to do. And you have like you enhance your security over time and you build based on your needs. Next slide, please. Okay, what are the modern security features that you should look in your project? And this is very important to know, like, okay, even though you're not going to maybe implement it day one, it has to be in your roadmap. You have to know that you will be able to implement it. First, and like we can't do anything without AI, right? So AI validation, and I'm not talking a lot of people when they talk about AI, they're talking about generative AI, right? Like ChatGPT and so on. Now, this is more machine learning to be able to build the rules and to identify different anomalies and patterns in your payments. Now, there are very, very few companies that will be able to do it themselves. So they need to select the proper vendor that will do this journey together with them. Okay, so they have to kind of adopt the technology and to fine tune it for their needs and not to develop their technology from day one. Real-time monitoring. Nowadays the payments are like it's not like batch processes like heavy mainframes that you have 24 hours to stop the transaction and so on. Everything happens like real time. You have to have real-time monitoring. You have to have people that will that will receive the alerts from your monitoring system and will be able to act on them. Now, and this will bring us to automated controls. Okay, that it takes too long for the people to react on the alert, to react on the security event, and we need to build automated response plans that are basically like scripts that will be executed automatically. Now, the problem with that is that there's always false positives. So there is some threshold and fine tuning that needs to happen to between like missing the alerts and overreacting on the alerts. You don't want to stop like 60% of your transactions just because of the like some false positive alerts. And on the other side, you don't want to be too loose and to approve everything and to send everything to the execution. So this is part of the project that we need to define like the company security risk appetite, what will work for your implementation and to execute it accordingly. And next slide, please. Now the payment world become more and more complex. There are different compliances. There are different regulations that are coming into place. And when a lot of companies that work globally, so in America you have SOX compliance, in Europe GDPR, in Asia they have like some local regulations. Now, and it's important from the beginning of the project to understand your regulatory needs, and to know to what compliance you have to meet during the lifetime of the project. Okay, so it's fine to say my first implementation is going to be Europe, and then GDPR, that's what's important to me. But you have to know that no, in another 6 months, another year, I will be implementing also, like I will cover America, I will cover APAC, and I will meet some other regulation there. And you have to be prepared for that in advance. Next slide, please. Okay, so what do we do? There are following data protection flow that you have to secure end to end. So it starts, as Akila said, there's raw data entry. There is like some file that goes into the system. Now, how can you secure it? There are different ways. Like you can sign it. Okay, so in the second that you sign your file, it still can be changed, but the signature is not going to match the original file, and that can stop the processing. Encryption end to end. You have to encrypt your file, so when it go on the wire, okay, it cannot be manipulating during the transaction. There are different encryption methods. There are different, but we should aim always to the best of breed, to the most like hardened and secure way. And secure storage. When you upload the file, it will be stored on some SFTP server, on some like on the processor side. So it needs to be also encrypted, so it can be manipulated on the storage. You have to have proper, like you make sure that your vendor has proper access control, that their support personnel cannot just go into the storage and change things there. And then the payment execution. So you have to protect the delivery of the file into Swift or whatever like banking system you're using. Next slide, please.
So thank you, Aaron. Very, 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 very helpful. So this a little bit of best practice in action. So we're just showing here a little bit of challenge and solution. We have proposed here three scenarios from payment approval, currency management, and compliance check. So as per payment perspective, so the challenge is that sometimes, or most of the time, there is multiple manual approvals that are creating delays, and this is obviously is from two different angles, from funding perspective and also from execution perspective. That also depends from the the volume and the amount that you are going to send out. The solution is obviously the automated validation with real-time verification. So obviously, when you have an automated system, you are happy, you've seen your data, you have made sure that all the information that have been submitted, they're ready to go, and it's going to be faster, and it's going to be more obviously efficient. The currency management, the challenge is the complexity in managing different currencies, because I understand the companies, they might hold different currencies, but not all of them. So, and they incur in high fees. So if we are paying globally, we need to have obviously majority of the currencies available, which is challenging. And if you have it, probably because the volume that businesses are moving are lower, comparing on business, they are moving billions, the cost is higher. When you have an integrated FX with optimized rates, definitely this could be probably more cost effectiveness, because businesses, they are offering payment solution, especially globally. They move, as I was saying, billions per year, so they might definitely have more access to better FX rates comparing to the to other businesses, and also they can sometimes lock the rate. So I'm sure that some of you, they might think, oh, actually, but if I'm going to give the FX to my provider, how are they going to make sure that my employees, or they are paid the exact amount that they're supposed to pay? Because you can lock the rate. There is lots of opportunities in giving the FX to your provider, and there are also other benefit in around it. In terms of compliance checks, obviously the manual compliance verification, it takes time, is not efficient, and when we're talking about manual verification or manual intervention in general, we expose ourselves to an error. So an automated regulatory screening, compliance screening, it's really important. And we need to, when we're talking about compliance checks, and we're talking about in terms of also the payments world, I'm sure that the majority of the audience has experienced that when we execute payments, when we send payments, sometimes there is some delays with the employees. We're talking about compliance. Compliance screening, what does it mean? What is that? Why banks, they don't disclose it? So they don't disclose it. So it's additional information that the banks, they require. It's part of the, it's their rights to stop any kind of payments. And also, if believe that this payment is not genuine for whatever reason, they stop it. So, and then obviously you have employees, they are screaming in because they have not received the salaries. It might take up to 24 hours, 48 hours, or even more sometimes, if they require additional information to release the payment. With an automated regulatory compliance screening, you could prevent, reduce, obviously, I'm not saying eliminate, because as I said, the banking system can stop payments at any time. But with an automated compliance screening, you can reduce it massively in terms of payment stop, because you can have an additional screening before the payments are executed. So all of those is a best practice, and something that we all should look into it when we choose our payments vendors, and understand if they have this solution in place, which they will facilitate, obviously, the flow of the payments in the most secure and innovative and efficient way.
Okay, thank you. I think I know we have our last poll. So bear with me and I will launch that. Okay, so our last poll is, what's your biggest challenge in implementing new security measures? Technical complexity, team adoption, integration with existing systems. Does anybody would like to guess on this one? What's going to be the highest?
I would go with
you go with technical complexity.
No, integration with existing.
Integration, yeah. I think I'm the same. I think integration with the existing system is the
top one.
With the customers that are a little bit like they have like some legacy system that they're using on-prem and so on. Sometimes it can be like challenging to create this integration.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're nearly at my magic number. So if you can answer the poll, I'd really appreciate it. We just give it a few more seconds just to allow those that haven't answered to answer. See, unfortunately, I could see the results, but there you go. Okay, so I'm going to stop it in 2 seconds now. Thank you again to everyone that answered. So here are the results. We have technical complexity, 27%, team adoption, 10%, and then integration with existing systems, 63%. So you hit it there. Right, I'll just move on to the next slide for you.
Thank you. So what is the implementation guide for the payment project? So first, you have to understand really what are you going into. You have to understand your current process, what are you trying to achieve, what are the gaps that you're currently experiencing, and you have to really understand your desired state. Then you have to go into the next step is to select your vendor, to select the platform that you're going to use. And it's very important from the third-party risk management perspective. You have to evaluate your vendor. Okay, that's these days it's very easy, to create a startup. You can, you have Copilot. It's easy to create use generative AI to create the code. It's easy to deploy the code on AWS, on the cloud. It's all kind of easy, and barriers to entry are pretty low. And there are a lot of vendors that are not ready to take the responsibility of payment solutions. Okay, you should look into the vendors that were around on the market for several years that experienced some security challenges. Okay, it's a good thing. There's nobody is perfect. Everybody from time to time they have some security challenges, but what's important in the vendor is how they react on it, how they overcome the difficulty, and how they become stronger from the incident. So you have to verify the compliance standard, that your vendor can support them, and that it's not going to be a challenge for you to be compliant to your regulation because of this vendor selection. Then you go into integration. You start small. You do some pilot. You integrate your main core system with this payment processing, and you implement high-level security to ensure that end-to-end your system and your integration is secure. You have to think about how do you store your authentication tokens with the provider APIs. How do you make sure that your TLS is secured, that you're always authenticated, that you have all of steps of your deployments are secured. And you have to implement a validation system that will make sure that if something goes wrong, you get alerted and you get notified. And then the last step is your optimization. You have to do fine-tune your security parameters, your security features, and for that it's very important that these security features are actually available for you. Okay, so that's what you did when you evaluated your vendor. You have to make sure that they can deliver it down the road. Okay, the security team training is extremely important. What are you going to do if you do have an incident? Okay, it's not just to train your engineers, but it's also to do tabletop exercise with your management. How are we going to address some security issue that can come from the vendor? Okay, do we have an open channel with the vendor security team that we can work together to resolve any issue, any concerns that we have? And advanced monitoring, you should be able to pull all the logs into your SIM system. You should have proper SOC team, security operation team that will act on the alerts the system generate. Next slide, please. So key takeaway: vendor security is critical. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's marriage, but it's close to it. Okay, you inherit a lot of security benefits and security issues from your vendor. Modern threats need modern solution. You have to make sure that your tools that your vendor will come with that will meet your expectations. And continuous monitoring is extremely important because as we said before, it's not like we're not processing batch like every 24 hours. Everything is live. Everything is like transactions are flying to the execution in real time. And it's very important that you will be on top of it. Next slide. Okay. Now, next steps. Okay, security audit. It's important like that when you have your project implemented and everybody's happy and it's all successful, it's not the end of the journey. Okay, you have to do security audits of your vendor. You have to be always on top of their security posture. You have to ask them for their SOC reports, SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports. You have to train your team constantly, train your team to be on top of modern security threats and to be able to react on them. And system upgrade, you have to always see what other features your vendor security features that your vendor come with and implement them. Like everything with the security is it's just point of time that you're secure and you in good shape. Like the same system that's secure today is not going to be secure in 6 months and in a year. You have to be always be on top of it. You have to be always be asking your vendor what other things, what other features can be implemented and included in the offering, and try to upgrade and update your system and your processes. Thank you.
Okay, so we come to our Q&A. I'm just going to forward on to the contact slide just in case people would like to contact either of you while we're answering the questions. So we're not going yet, but I just thought it would be helpful for people to be able to connect with you on LinkedIn or to take your email addresses. So the first question I've got, could you explain more about AI-powered validation in payment processing? What specific types of threat can it detect that traditional systems might miss? Is that an Aaron question?
Okay. So, and again, when I'm saying AI, I don't refer to generative AI. That's like the hottest thing now in the market. It's to be able to build your machine learning rules that based on them, the transaction can be evaluated and decided if it's legit or it's fragile. The idea is that your vendor should have a lot of data to be trained on. Like every consumer of the payment system, they have limited amount of transactions they process on the daily, weekly base, but the vendor, they have a lot of transaction, and the rules should be like cross different clients. Okay, and then something that they saw or they learned from the one client should be applied to the other clients.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions from the audience. If they're too long to answer now, could you just say that to answer offline, obviously, which we can do. So our current vendor has offered a trust account approach whereby we fund the vendor bank account and they pay directly. This seems particularly common in APAC region. Would you recommend this route instead of bank file upload?
Thank you. Thank you for this question. Actually, so there is two aspects here. Trust account, we need to bear in mind that the trust account are different from safeguarded accounts. So trust account, it means that a pool of money is held in there. So, and this is very complex also in terms of reconciliation, it might be, if your vendor is not able to generate automated report, because the trusted account, basically you have, so the vendor is liable to get the money there from also other customers. So there's a mix up of money. So the first thing probably should be, business should look for safeguarded accounts where you're going to have your own account. It can be based at the legal entity level, or you can have at the parent level, which the money is sitting there in terms of client money rules protected, and there is not a mix-up. So this can also help in terms of the reconciliation, and can speed up the process, and can close, let's say, the payroll cycle in the most efficient way when you have like a safeguarded accounts. Bank file, I would not recommend bank files for the reason that we have been explained earlier. They expose the business to a big risk, because they rarely they are audited internally, and even if you would like to audit bank file internally to make sure that nothing has been changed or manipulated, it might take you you know, a couple of days. It depends on the volume that you're going to have in this bank file, and we are talking about a very sensitive business, which is payroll payments, for example, and we are working with the clock. So banks are not waiting us for you know, to delay payments because there are currency cutoff. So probably I would go around and looking for a vendor that can offer you know, safeguarded accounts. They are regulated, they can move money cross-border without no issues, and discover the most efficient way to pay out the employees with the real-time payments.
Okay, this is a question that I've a lot of people have been talking about, especially within our membership. So when it comes to issuing out payments that you nearly have 24 hours to issue out because of rules and regulations, would you suggest to review prior to avoid litigation and security checks?
Yeah, I mean, like if you have 24 hours to execute a payments, it would be obviously best to check what you're paying out. I know that you know, business can be rushed in terms of execute these specific payments, and to be honest, I would be very conscious. Obviously, when we are executing payments last minute for whatever reason, it's really important to auditing it, and making sure that you know, they are triple checked, they are auditing. You might have like few people looking at it if you have a specific just to avoid any. It's not only about security, but it's also about, you know, making a mistake. So I would probably triple check before executing any payments. There is a rush, because these are the most common scenarios where we can ending up in make a mistake or exposed to fraud.
Okay, so this is quite a long question. So are you ready? But it's
Sure.
it's a really interesting one. Okay, so it's around UK. We have been finding that our UK employee salary payments are increasingly being held up on payday due to banking compliance checks. No advance warning is possible, and we find out when employees contact us to understand why they have not been paid, or on or after payday. I have never had this experience before. Is this a known current issue that is arising for payroll providers generally? And B, our payroll provider doesn't have a direct debit mandate themselves. They outsource their treasury to a third party. Could this be a result of this third party relationship?
Okay. Thank you, Melanie. So compliance additional screening, as we were discussing earlier, they can happen to any country, any currency. So these obviously are unpredictable, and I'm sure people have experienced the fact that we are paying a specific employee or couple of employees for several years, and at some point they don't receive the payment. So these are the rights that the banks reserve to, if they associate those kind of payments to any fraudulent or any other kind of situation which they don't disclose. So we don't have a visibility. It's increasing a little bit more and more as we are moving to more real time and fast payments. Obviously, the banks, they are a little bit more precaution to release payments as soon as we submit it. You will never find out what is the reason, and you will find out only if the bank is going to contact you and ask if, you know, for these specific employees, you need to add additional information such as ID or address. And then they can, once they are satisfied with the information that have been shared, they can release the payments. Sometimes those payments are stuck at the intermediary bank. If there is, in UK, shouldn't be the case because we have fast payments. But the first thing that we should do is to contact the bank and understand if there is an additional information required. There are businesses, service provider, and payment providers. They can reduce this additional compliance screening. I'm just saying reduce because we cannot eliminate it all, but we can reduce it because business that they use technology, they can collect information earlier. It's good to discover more in terms of how prevent those in terms of doing sort of penny test, validation, data validation before executing payments. And for sure, it will reduce the additional compliance screening. So the last part was the payroll provider doesn't have a direct debit mandate themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
They've
trying
asked,
to.
could this be a result of, so our payroll provider doesn't have a direct debit mandate themselves. They outsource their treasury to a third party. Could this be a result of this third party relationship?
So basically, if your so let's say if your payroll provider is outsourcing their treasury to a third party, obviously it means that we need to understand first if your payroll provider is handling also the money, or if the funds that are sent to the third party, because if a payroll provider is not regulated, first of all, they cannot handle the money, and they don't have the e-license, so the electronic license money movement. So they use a third party. There is a relationship between the third party, obviously, and your payroll provider. At the same time, you should be protected. You should check if the third party, which I presume is regulated, and they have the license to hold your funds. So direct debit can be created. Obviously, they cannot offer it because they are not obviously they are not a bank. Your payroll provider is not a bank. They don't have a license where you can connect your direct debit. So that's why you fund directly the third party vendor. Hopefully I managed to answer this question. If not, please feel free to contact me and I can explain further.
Okay, so I think that that brings us really to a natural end, doesn't it? It's been really insightful session, and I think this is becoming a topic that is more and more important for people to get their heads around, isn't it, really, and to take it seriously. So if you do have any further questions, please feel free to contact Kelly and Aaron on the email addresses, or again you can link in with them. So if you do have any questions come up after this, please feel free to contact them. Thank you so much, both of you. Really interesting session, and I hope that we get a chance to run another session later on this year. So thanks once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You might want to just log out because I can't stop it. Okay, I'll see you later, Kelly.
So, thank you.
The joys.